Bloody Roar 2. That's it, that's the video. There's a lot that isn't known, or at least isn't common knowledge in this series. The kind of stuff that doesn't show up on Wikipedia and may not even show up on a fan-made or run wikia. This happens for three main reasons. Either Hudson/Aiding never talked about it, no one reported on it, or it's all in Japanese and wasn't translated and widely distributed. That was especially the case with a series of V-Jump publications on the Bloody Roar games. They didn't make one for 4 because they were under Konami's influence by that point, and from then on it seems like they stopped caring and used the V-Jump money to hire a model and make some cringeworthy promo material instead. We're going to focus just on the V-Jump books for 2, 3, and Extreme, because they have something the first one doesn't. Interviews with Bloody Roar series director Kenji Fukuya. Thanks to the work of Alex over at shmuplations.com, there's an easy way for English speakers to look at what Fukuya-san had to say about these games. And for the next 3 videos, I'll go through some key points for each of these interviews, starting with the one in the Bloody Roar 2 V-Jump. Bloody Roar 2's development lasted 15 months, beginning in October of 1997. The significance of this date is that Bloody Roar 1 was not out for the PlayStation yet. Seeing as how the arcade version released in July of that year, I can only assume that version did well enough to warrant a sequel before ever hitting home consoles. 2 months later, Fukuya and company had the master document for the game ready, though several ideas from it got scrapped, particularly when it came to new characters. Kenji specifically named a Bull character, who previously appeared as concept art for Bloody Roar 1, a younger brother for Fox from Bloody Roar 1, and a guy named Donryu, whose beast form would be a crab. Crab! Character modeling was done using the first Bloody Roar's platform, unsurprisingly, for characters like Yugo and Marvel in January of 1998. Perhaps not so coincidentally, Yugo and Marvel appeared together on some promo material for the game. In March of that year, illustrations began, and the sound effects and voice recordings were finished. Of note, Fukuya said the guy who recorded the announcer was a fan of the first Bloody Roar game. The next 3 months were spent trying to balance the gameplay and characters, while Fukuya spent most of his time in Tokyo, which I'm guessing is in reference to Hudson Soft's headquarters in Tokyo's Midtown Tower. From September to November, musicians were called in to record the score for the PlayStation version's soundtrack, and Fukuya specifically references Jun Kajiwara as a guitarist with, quote, godly skills, unquote. Indeed he is, Kenji. Indeed he is. The arcade version was finalized and displayed at the Amusement Machine Show, or AM Show for short, garnering some press which included appearing domestically in the long-running Gamest magazine multiple times, and internationally in various publications, such as this article in the December 1998 edition of Gamers Republic magazine. Finally, debugging wrapped for the PlayStation version, and it went on sale in Japan in January of 1999, with Fukuya noting that he felt like a father seeing his daughter get married. I've heard the father seeing their kid move out for college analogy for a game going on sale, but this is a new one to me. In-universe, Zoanthropes are the result of a genetic mutation/evolution, or lab experimentation in some cases, but where did the idea for them come from? Fukuya said he thought regular human versus human fighting games were kinda boring, and he was more interested in a fighting game where the combatants were superpowered beings. Oddly enough, Hudson Soft published a fighting game around this time, Dual Heroes, and no, that's not a typo, it's just a bad translation, which had people in combat-modified power suits, so it wasn't just a regular guy versus regular guy fighting game. It also sucked. It's at this point he cites something that has been referenced to death, only to be resurrected and referenced to death again like it's stuck in some twisted, never-ending pop culture purgatory. Dragon Ball. Obviously, Fukuya couldn't just put Super Saiyans in his fighting game. There had already been several Dragon Ball games from the likes of Tosei, Beck, and Bandai, including a couple on the PlayStation. According to Kenji, it was Aiding who came up with the idea for people turning into half-animal fighters, and from there the rest is history. Fukuya had two big ideas for the roster of Bloody Roar 2. The first was that since the game took place a few years after the first one, he would drop some of the older characters. I say some because, well, Gato and his senior citizens discount are still here. The second was to use this game to implement some of the more outlandish ideas for beast forms, which explains the crab guy from earlier.
Crab!
He started with a bat zoanthrope, which would eventually become Jenny. And when that started working, he added other weird ideas like a half-beast, a chameleon, and finally an insect, which was Stun. Remember the bull character concept art for Bloody Roar 1? That was the original plan, but he was eventually used to help create Stun. Makes sense if you think about it. Bulls have horns, Stun's beast form is essentially a Japanese horned beetle, and he uses said horn a lot in his moveset. Apparently he was also supposed to be able to fly around, sort of like Jenny, but they thought that would make him way too overpowered. Imagine a character with the strength and size of Stun being able to fly around environments and dive bomb opponents. On second thought, don't. Uriko has her share of fans, some more obsessive than others, and as it turned out, one of those fans was part of Bloody Roar 2's development team. Uriko was going to be a different person entirely. Different name, different background. Apparently she was a Chinese character at one point. But there was a guy on the BR2 staff who was vehemently against these changes and fought for Uriko the half-beast the whole way. Fukuya mentioned how lots of things about Uriko don't make sense, like how her mom is a boar zoanthrope, but she's somehow a half-cat thing. Just say the Tylon experiments messed her up. But they ultimately went along with the fan/team members' Uriko plan. Kenji Fukuya had many desires for the Bloody Roar games, and he wasn't even close to realizing all of them at this point. He had some broad or nebulous desires, such as wanting to make a third entry in the series, as well as a quote-unquote special edition Bloody Roar title of sorts. Then there were more specific things he wanted, particularly when it came to additional characters. Fukuya specifically mentioned wanting to resurrect the original Bakuryu as Mecha Bakuryu. He would get his wish with Koryu in Bloody Roar 3. He also expressed his desire to have an elephant zoanthrope, going so far as to name-drop Mammoth Man from Kinnikuman. He also added, "Everyone thinks elephants are cute, right?" No, Kenji. Elephants are psoriasis in animal form. If you want to check out the rest of the Shmuplations article, it's linked in the description. Next time though, I'll go over Bloody Roar 3's V-Jump interview, in which Kenji Fukuya details the changes to the series' game mechanics, and as an unrelated bonus, how he reacted to the now infamous user poll on BloodyRoar.com for what beast forms to add.